Greetings, Pokefans! Michael here. In case you missed any of the earlier announcements the last week or so, I am giving away a Nintendo Switch to celebrate the launch of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. If you would like the chance to win such a glorious device, be sure to head to the link down in the description below, click the link that says gleam.io whatever, do as many things on that task list as you want, and that'll be as many entries as you get. I will be announcing the winner on Twitter and emailing the winner, so make sure you follow me on Twitter to know if you won. And check your email regularly, please. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon have just come out for the Nintendo 3DS. Nintendo was kind enough to send me a copy of the games early, and so because of that I have already completed the main story. And if you want to watch my journey through that, make sure to watch the Ultra Sun Let's Play I've been posting here on the channel. And one thing that I noticed pretty early on is that Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are noticeably more difficult than Sun and Moon were, right from the beginning of the game. That added difficulty definitely applies to several of the Totem Pokemon, a lot of which have changed from Sun and Moon. So I thought it would be fun to count down the top 5 hardest Totem Pokemon battles in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And when I say hardest, I mean the difficulty. If it was by their how physically hard they are, then probably Toga-Maru because it's Steel type. I will of course be discussing how difficult these totem battles are, such as their stat boosts, what moves they have, the strategies, and how that can really screw you up, but I will also be providing you with some strategies for how you can beat them, since they are quite difficult and strategies can help. Also, one thing that should be clear, but I should say regardless, is that the difficulty of battles is a very subjective thing, so this list is going to be mostly my opinion. There are going to be some battles on here that you thought were much easier, and some battles I won't talk about that you thought were very difficult. It depends a lot on your team composition, so just keep that in mind. Also, if you are worried about spoilers, the only spoilers that are going to be in this video are what the Totem Pokemon are, and what their movesets and so forth are. There's not going to be any other story spoilers, so don't worry about that. So be sure to leave a like down below on the video if you're excited, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and without further ado, here are the top 5 hardest Totem Pokemon in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Number 5, Totem Kommo-o. The final trial in Sun and Moon returns as the penultimate trial in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and it's similarly challenging. Kommo-o does have a 4x weakness to Fairy that seems like it'd be pretty easy to exploit, but not quite. It gets an Omni Boost, which boosts its defenses by a little bit, and it also holds a Roselli Berry, a move that's gonna make that first Fairy hit do a lot less damage than you think it would, so a first turn OHKO is pretty unlikely. And since you're probably not gonna OHKO Kommo-o in the first turn, you're in for quite a battle. Kommo-o is a pseudo-legendary Pokemon, meaning it has a base stat total of 600 plus an Omni Boost, so its stats are gonna be very, very good. In addition to that, its moveset is incredible. Dragon Claw, Drain Punch, Thunder Punch, and Poison Jab means that it has a super effective move for every single one of its weaknesses except for Psychic. But even though it doesn't have a super effective move against Psychic types, one of its SOS allies, Scizor, does. Scizor is a bug type, and it has X-Scissor, a very strong bug type move with stab that's gonna scare pretty much any Psychic type off the field. In addition to that, Scizor also has Technician boosted Bullet Punch, which is gonna do even more to scare off Ice and Fairy types that you might be using. Not to mention that Scizor also has Light Screen, which is going to cripple your special attacking power if you're using that, and it's also got Screech, making Kommo-o's physical attacks do more damage to your Pokemon. Noivern is Kommo-o's other possible SOS ally, and it's definitely the easier to handle of the two. With the Dragon Pulse, Air Slash, and Boom Burst combo, it can do quite a bit of damage, the last attack of which Kommo-o isn't going to be hurt by because it's soundproof, but it doesn't have a super effective move against Psychic types, so you're more safe keeping your Psychic type Pokemon on the field. Be wary though, since Air Slash can make you flinch since Noivern's so fast, so just be wary. So I've talked about the challenges of Kommo-o, but how do you beat it? Well, one strategy that I've found to be very effective in Totem Pokemon battles is toxic poisoning them. Giving them that poison means that it's gonna take more and more damage every single turn, and since most of these don't have a way to heal status conditions and they can't switch out, they're not gonna be able to prevent that poison damage from racking up. and as soon as you Toxic Poison one of these Totem Pokemon, it immediately has a lifespan, so all you have to do is survive until it dies. If for some reason you're not able to Toxic Poison it, or burn it to do less damage but lower its attacking power, I suggest using Flyinium or Psychium Z right at the very start. You can't use the other 3 Z crystals that kommo-o is weak to since you haven't gotten far enough in the story yet, but if you use Flyinium or Psychium Z, which you gotta make sure you go out of your way to get those, Flyinium Z's in 10 Carat Hill, Psychium Z's in Hyena Desert, you have a solid chance to OHKO kommo-o on the first turn. Which is great because kommo-o doesn't have a protecting move, so you don't have to worry about it drastically lowering the damage of your only Z move for the battle. And if for some reason that doesn't work out, I suggest a Pokemon that's generally pretty tanky, mainly higher defense since kommo-o is a physical attacker, and make sure it's a Pokemon that's either resistant to or immune to fighting type attacks. You really don't want kommo-o going for Drain Punch and then healing its health back up. Make sure it goes for its non-self-healing moves. Totem kommo-o is definitely a challenging trial, but since it's later in the game, your team should be pretty stacked by this point, so it's definitely one that you can overcome, hence its lower placement on this list. Number 4, Totem Mimikyu. Totem Mimikyu returns in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and is similarly challenging, and there's quite a few reasons why. First off, its Ghost Fairy typing is fantastic. It means it's only weak to Steel and Ghost, and Ghost types are also weak to Mimikyu, so that makes things a bit tricky. In addition, its excellent Disguise ability means that your first hit on it is gonna do nothing. So to do any damage with regular attacks, you gotta hit it twice. On a similar parallel, its held item is a Lumberry, so if you wanna give it any status condition, you have to do it twice. On top of all that, this Mimikyu has pretty solid stats, in addition to an Omni boost, so it's quite a formidable opponent. Its SOS allies can get pretty tricky too. Banette is one possible one, and it is quite a pain. It can cripple physical attackers by using Will-O-Wisp, but it can also force switch outs by either laying a curse on your Pokemon or by using Screech, drastically lowering your defense and making Mimikyu's attacks do a lot more damage. Normally in Totem battles, I say keep the SOS ally on the field and just KO the Totem Pokemon first so it can't call in a second Pokemon, but with the case of Banette, definitely KO Banette as quickly as you can. The other one is Jellicent, and it's not as much of a problem as Banette. It does have the Cursed Body ability, which has a chance to disable one of your moves, so definitely do not touch this thing until Mimikyu goes down. It's not that much of an offensive threat since its special attack isn't all that high, and it only knows Water Pulse, Nightshade, and Spite. And then it has Snore, even though it doesn't know Rest, so I don't know why they gave it Snore. Jellicent, just leave it on the field till you KO Mimikyu. So how do you beat it? Well, like I said with kommo-o, Toxic Poison works great against Mimikyu. Status moves actually bypass Disguise, so you can go for it on the first turn without breaking its Disguise first. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, it does have the Lumberry, so you're still gonna have to go for the status move twice, but hopefully your Pokemon is tanky enough to survive a hit or two in order to do that in the first 2 turns. You could also burn it instead of Toxic Poisoning it. You won't do racking up damage, unfortunately, it's just gonna be consistently a little, but you're also gonna cripple its physical attacking power, so I guess choose which one you prefer. Mimikyu can't heal itself, so Toxic damage racking up isn't as important. You definitely want to use a Pokemon that resists bug type attacks, so Mimikyu doesn't go for Leech Life. Leech Life is its only way of healing itself, and you definitely want to prevent that. Speaking of types that resist bug, Steel is the ideal type Pokemon for this battle. It's one of Mimikyu's only 2 weaknesses, and unlike Ghost types, it's not weak to Ghost, so it can definitely work really well. You should have the Steelium Z by this point, so using that once Mimikyu's Disguise is down could be very effective. Outside of that, I recommend using just a generally bulky Pokemon with really high defense, since every attack that all 3 of these Pokemon can use is a physical attack, except for Jellicent's Water Pulse, so a high defense Pokemon that resists water would do very well in this battle. Mimikyu, you won't be able to defeat it right away because of Disguise and the Lumberry, but if you have the right strategy going in, hopefully you should be fine. Number 3, Totem Alolan Marowak. Totem Lowland Marowak is a brand new totem introduced to Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and let me tell you, if you go into this battle underprepared, it can be a doozy. The first scary thing about this Marowak is that it's holding a thick club, an item that, while useless on any other Pokemon, doubles the attack of Marowak and Cubone, meaning this Pokemon's already reasonable attack stat is suddenly a lot higher. Combine that with its stab physical move in Flame Wheel, and it's gonna do quite a bit of damage. Flame Wheel also has the chance to burn, meaning that its Hex move, a move that does double damage if the target has a status condition, is gonna double in damage if it burns you. It also has Brick Break, which is pretty good coverage against two of its weaknesses, Rock and Dark, and it also has Detect. And Detect is a real pain, because Pokemon that have protecting moves in totem battles means that you can't just use your Z move whenever you want. Because if they go for that protecting move on the turn you use your Z move, the amount of damage you use with your only Z move is going way down. Another tricky thing about this Marowak is that its aura sharply raises its speed, meaning a Pokemon that's normally pretty freaking slow is probably gonna outspeed a pretty solid percentage of your team. So that's never a good thing. Totem Lowland Marowak only has one possible SOS ally, but it's a tough one in Salazzle. Salazzle has Poison Gas, a 90% accurate move that will poison your Pokemon. This is bad because not only do you start taking poison damage, but it also doubles the damage from Marowak's Hex and Salazzle's Venoshock. In addition to that, it's got Flame Burst, a pretty solidly powerful stab move, and it's also got Torment. And Torment will, as the name implies, torment you. Torment makes it so you can't use the same move 2 turns in a row, which, while it can be annoying, it's actually a really big deal because Marowak has Detect. Torment means you can't use your best move 2 turns in a row. So if you go for your best move on the turn that Marowak happens to Detect, you know that next turn it's not gonna Detect again, but you can't use your strongest move. Torment is a massive annoyance. The combination of these two Pokemon can get kinda overwhelming, so how do you beat the fire trial? Well, the first tip I have is, I know you just got that shiny new Waterium Z from the water trial over in Brooklet Hill. Oh my god, do not use it first turn, because Marowak is pretty likely to use Detect first turn, and that will waste your Z move. It'll do way less damage. You have to wait to use your Water Z move until the turn after Marowak has used Detect. And thankfully your Water Z move doesn't apply to Torment. So if you go for Water Pulse, then you can't use Water Pulse again, but your Water Z move is a different move, so you can use those 2 turns in a row. Definitely wait for Marowak to use Detect, and then use Waterium Z on the next turn. In addition to that, like with the other ones, Toxic Poisoning Marowak is a great idea. It cannot heal itself, and it has no way to prevent status conditions, so definitely Toxic Poison it if you have the chance. That's really your only option for hurting its status condition. Since it's a fire type, it can't be burned. Virtually any ground type attack will OHKO Salazzle since it's got bad defenses and is 4 times weak to ground, but I don't suggest using a pure ground type Pokemon since ground does not resist fire. The best typing for this battle, in my opinion, would be water ground, such as Marshtomp or Barboach, because it resists both fire and poison. Generally, bulky Pokemon are going to be useful for this since you likely aren't going to be able to end the battle quickly with a Z move, and if any of your Pokemon happen to know Thief or Knockoff, definitely use it on a Lowland Marowak. It's a super effective move, but it can also get rid of its thick club, thus making its attacking power far less scary to deal with. And if you use Thief, make sure your thieving Pokemon is not holding an item. That would be dumb. Totem Lowland Marowak is definitely a very challenging trial since it's earlier on, so your team options are going to be a lot more limited, but if you go in with the right strategy, I am confident you will succeed. Number 2, Totem Laurentiis. The hardest totem Pokemon battle in Sun and Moon, in my opinion, continues to be quite challenging in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Laurentiis is pretty much the same as before. It gets its speed sharply boosted, so it's gonna outspeed a lot more Pokemon than it would otherwise. It's also got pretty strong attacking power, Low Sweep kind of sucks. It's weak and it lowers your speed, but this thing's gonna outspeed you anyways, so that doesn't matter. But Solar Blade will hit very hard if you don't resist it. X-Scissor isn't that big of a deal because Bug isn't good against any of Grass's weaknesses. However, Synthesis is gonna suck. This thing has a way to heal itself reliably, so even if you're whittling it down, it's just gonna use Synthesis and its health is gonna go back up. Also, I should mention it's holding a Power Herb, so its first Solar Blade is gonna be able to hit without needing to charge, so that's not a massive deal, but just keep that in mind. Laurentiis' SOS allies have changed completely from Sun and Moon. One of the new Pokemon is okay to deal with, and the other one is horrible. Let's talk about the okay one first, Kecleon. Kecleon's gonna use Sunny Day, which you should expect this by now. It makes it so Synthesis heals more, and it also makes it so Solar Blade doesn't take 2 turns to charge, so Sunny Day, you should expect that. In addition to that, it knows Ancient Power, which is strong against fire types, but it doesn't do that much damage, so don't worry about it too much. And then it knows Dizzy Punch, which can confuse you, and Screech, which can lower your defense, making Laurentiis' attacks do a lot more damage. So it might force you to switch a couple times to get rid of confusion and the defense drops, but for the most part, Kecleon's probably okay to leave on the field until you've KO'd the Laurentiis. But its other SOS ally is Comfey, and oh my god, if Comfey shows up on the field, kill it as soon as possible. Its first 2 moves aren't that big a deal. Sunny Day, yes, you know that's gonna happen, and Magical Leaf doesn't do very much damage. However, Floral Healing is another way that it can heal Laurentiis in addition to Synthesis. So if you aren't doing big damage to Laurentiis, it could Synthesis and Floral Healing in the same turn and suddenly be all the way back to full health, and that's not good. And in addition to that, it knows Flower Shield, a move that will raise the defense of every grass-type Pokemon on the field, meaning it's gonna boost Laurentiis' defense. If you are using a physical attacker and you let that get out of control, you're gonna do no damage to Laurentiis. So you'll be forced to either use a special attacker or use a dire hit and hope for a crit that ignores the defense boost to Laurentiis. You can't let Comfey keep healing Laurentiis or boosting its defense. You gotta get that thing off the field immediately. What are some strategies for beating it? Well, like a lot of the other totems, I recommend toxic poisoning it or burning it. Burning it will make it so it doesn't hit harder, but it does less damage. Toxic Poison makes it so the damage gets bigger and bigger. Of these two, I personally recommend Toxic. Burn doesn't matter as much if the Pokemon can't heal itself, but Laurentiis is definitely healing itself, so you're gonna want the type of status that will overwhelm the healing quicker than Burn will. Also, very important thing, give it the status condition on turn 1. Laurentiis' ability is Leaf Guard, which prevents it from being afflicted with status conditions in sunny weather. So if you give it Toxic on the first turn, great, because it's not gonna lose that Toxic. However, if you wait until Comfey or Kecleon set up Sunlight, you won't be able to Tox it until the sun fades. Outside of status conditions, fire types are really good for this trial because while the Sunny Day helps out Laurentiis, it also helps out your fire type Pokemon, so definitely use that. You can also use your Firium Z that you recently got pretty much freely, though Laurentiis cannot protect itself, so you can just use it whenever you want and it's gonna take a lot of damage from it. Also, poison types are pretty useful since they're good against both Laurentiis and Comfey. So actually, Salandit or Salazzle would be excellent for this trial. Totem Laurentiis can be extremely challenging if you let it get out of hand, like Jubilee did, but if you take the proper preparations, you'll hopefully be fine. Hopefully. Number 1, Totem Toga-Maru. I guess Toga-Maru's the hardest totem Pokemon in both senses of the word, so that's funny how that worked out. Totem Toga-Maru was hands down the hardest totem Pokemon for me, and I think for a lot of other people. I won't spoil my Let's Play because we're not to that point in the series yet, but oh my gosh, I struggled with this thing. This Toga-Maru has all sorts of ways to keep itself alive and mess you up in the process. First off, you'll notice that its aura doubles its defense, which is a big deal because that means ground type moves, which for the most part are physical, even though they're 4 times super effective, they may not one-shot this thing, and in fact, probably won't. In addition to that, Toga-Maru has Spiky Shield, a better version of Protect that if you make contact, will hurt your Pokemon, so physical attackers are not a fan of this thing. Also, Toga-Maru is pretty fast, usually made even faster by Tailwind that its ally Skarmory can summon, so it's almost always gonna hit first. Normally that's just like, okay, I have to deal with the hits first, that's annoying. However, Toga-Maru has two different moves, Zing Zap and Iron Head, that have a 30% chance to make your Pokemon flinch. If you had sped it, that wouldn't matter. But since it's going first, it's gonna make you flinch a lot, and it's gonna wanna make you pull your hair out. This Toga-Maru also knows Bounce, which means that since it's probably outspeeding you on a turn you go to attack it, it's just gonna hop in the air before you get there. And then if your Pokemon isn't gonna take a bounce well, and you have to switch out, you can't do any damage to it at all. And on top of all this Toga-Maru has a Citrus Berry, so all your hard-earned damage is gonna go away because it's chomping on its little snack. Its SOS allies are also pretty big pains. Skarmory's a pain to deal with because it summons Tailwind like I said, which makes Toga-Maru even faster and more likely to make your Pokemon flinch. In addition, Skarmory's probably gonna set up Stealth Rocks, meaning your fire types that are good against Toga-Maru and Skarmory are gonna take quite a bit more damage whenever you switch them in. Skarmory also knows Torment, which as we've discussed with the Salazzle that the Lowland Marowak summoned, is extremely annoying, especially since, like the Marowak, Toga-Maru knows a protecting move. So if you use your best move on a turn it happens to go for Spiky Shield, you can't use your best move on the turn you know that it won't. And also Skarmory knows Screech, which lowers your defense, making you take more damage from the Toga-Maru, and it's a giant pain. And the other one is Dedenne, which is annoying for several different reasons. It has Super Fang, so if you have a Pokemon that's at full health, it's losing half of it right away, which is quite annoying, I must say. And in addition to that, it has two different ways to half your attacking power, whether you're a physical attacker or a special attacker. Eerie Impulse will half your special attack, and Charm will half your physical attack. And it also has Discharge, which will not hurt Toga-Maru because it has Lightning Rod. Thankfully, Toga-Maru is a physical attacker, so its special attack getting boosted by Lightning Rod doesn't really matter, but it's still annoying. So how do you beat Totem Toga-Maru? With a lot of time and effort. Oh my god. First off, try to give it a damaging status condition like I've mentioned for all of the other totems. The only problem here is that because it's a steel type, you can't poison it unless you're using a Salazzle. So if you have a Salazzle on your team, fantastic. If you don't, well, I guess try to burn it. Burning it makes it so it's not gonna hit you as hard, but it's gonna do less damage over time, so it's not as good. Hopefully you have a Salazzle. Another tip is to use a special attacker if at all possible. Using special attacks makes it so that you're not having to deal with damage from Spiky Shield if you attack it on the turn that it uses it, and it also ignores the massive defense boost that Toga-Maru gets since you're dealing with its special defense. So definitely a special attacker, and special ground moves like Mud Bomb or Mud Shot or Earth Power if you somehow have a Pokemon that knows that at this level. I'd be very impressed if you did, but special ground moves are super ideal. But if you don't have any of those, special fire type attacks will work as well. Just be careful of Eerie Impulse, like I mentioned. If special attacks aren't realistic for your team, definitely go for Bulldoze or some other physical, non-contact ground type move. It won't hurt Skarmory, but it will hurt Dedenne and Toga-Maru at the same time, and since it won't make contact, you won't take damage from Spiky Shield. Some other tips are that if Dedenne comes out, try to KO it as quickly as possible so it's not going to cut down your attack power, and if you happen to have a Pokemon with the ability Inner Focus, definitely use that, because Zing Zap and Iron Head are going to do a lot of flinching, and it really sucks. Totem Toga-Maru is definitely a big challenge, but I mean, at least think to yourself, at least it doesn't have Iron Barbs. If it had Iron Barbs, this battle would be impossible with physical attackers, so at least be thankful for that. Go in with a good strategy and don't pull all your hair out. So there we have it. Those are the top 5 hardest totem Pokemon to battle in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. These games were definitely a big difficulty jump from Sun and Moon, which I appreciate. It's nice to have a challenge. It can get frustrating. I get mad. I got mad a lot playing this game, but it's fine. A lot of people complain about new Pokemon games being too easy. They can't complain about that in this game. What did you think of this video? Do you agree with my list? What did you think was the hardest totem Pokemon? Let me know down in the comments below! And if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like. Make sure you answer the comment. This is not a Let's Play. There's no comment question. The comment questions were the things I just said. And if you are not already subscribed to my channel, you definitely should. I make a bunch of fun Pokemon content that I am sure you will enjoy. And one more thing. Here's your friendly reminder to sign up for the Nintendo Switch giveaway. Link in the description. Go do it now! Alright, that's all I have for now. So till next time, Pokefans. Gotta catch them all!